afternoon, everyone. It's now 1 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the Ignite Session 9. I'm Kristen Leitz. I'm the Director of Agent Services at Keller Williams Peachtree Road, for those of you who don't know me. Just a few housekeeping things again. Remember to keep on your video the entire time and do not walk away. You'll be given a break about halfway through. So if you need to go to the bathroom or something, please try to keep it till then. In order to get credit, you have to keep your video on the whole time. I'm sure you guys know the routine by now. Any questions will go into the chat and our instructor will answer questions through that and I'll help monitor it. Let's see, anything else? I think that's it. Today is session 9, make and receive offers. And before I introduce our instructor, I'm just going to take the necessary screenshots for our attendance. So please make sure your videos are on. Let me get all of these. Just 2 seconds. Okay, we should be good. So today's instructor is Doug Graves. Doug is an associate broker realtor at Keller Williams Peachtree Road, along with his wife Cheryl, who serves on the Agent Leadership Council. They make up the Graves team. Doug has been in the real estate business for over 3 decades. His real estate journey began in the 90s as CEO and president of a real estate company, specializing in funding the purchase and rehabilitation of residential and commercial investment opportunities. In 2007, Doug joined Keller Williams and has served on the ALC at several different Keller Williams offices in the Atlanta area. Doug is a teacher at heart and has taught Ignite classes, contracts, and various other classes and workshops in the last decade. So, Doug, we're turning it over to you.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. Kristen, thank you so much. So, I got to sit on Bobby's class, and I know he has some technical difficulties with the computer. So what we're doing is, this is actually one of our conference rooms. It's right down from Kristen's office. My office is further down. If you've been in the Peachtree Road office, it's like a long football field. So if we had problems, she would have to run literally a football field to get to me. So we wanted to be close. So if you guys are okay looking at the magical flower behind me, I hope it's okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm a little different, okay? I don't sit here and just go blah, 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 because I think you don't learn anything. We have 3 hours together. And 3 things, here's 3 rules for me, and here's why I think this is going to be a great class. 1, I'm old, and I've been in the business a long time, and I do it very well. 2, I'm a broker. So when you go over make and receive offers, I'm going to look at it from a broker standpoint. Okay. I also fill in for our compliance broker. So I do answer questions when she's on vacation or sick or anything like that, Miss Kathy Woods. So you're going to get that part of it, which if you can stay compliant, that's 80% of your issues. 3rd, because I'm also a teacher at heart, I learn from people around the country. More people that are smarter than I am. And that grammar was not correct. Sorry, I grew up in South Georgia. But I understand this business as well as anyone because I am a student and I have learned for 3 decades from many people who are more intelligent than I am. So, and I share, we have group chats with other brokers around the country, Keller Williams people. 2 of my best friends are in Sotheby's. Another best friend of mine who's a broker in Savannah is with Berkshire Hathaway. So we share information and I'm going to put this in your brain over the next 3 hours. Everybody okay with that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, you can fall asleep, you can put your head on your desk, whatever you want to do. I'm going to keep talking. If you have a question, use the chat screen, okay? I want to get these thoughts out here. I counted, there's like 223 tips I'm going to give you in the next 3 hours. Is that going to be helpful? I think you're going to learn as much today as you will learn so far in your business life, because this is what I think it's about, making and receiving offers. If you can't do this properly, you will not be in business a year or 2 years from now. Look at your neighbor to the left and look at your neighbor to the right. Studies show that you will be the only one standing in 5 years, okay? So let's get busy. Any questions before we start? All right, this is your Uncle Doug talking to you, okay? So let's go. All right, let's start with our intro. I don't see it. Kristen, you pulled that up or?
I'm sharing it right now.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. I didn't want to share it too early.
No worries. All right. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. One other thing I'm going to tell you. I love everyone. I love all backgrounds. A lot of our client base are international clients, so I love all cultures. I want to tell you, if I accidentally offend anyone because I'm talking fast or if I appear to be rude, I'm just trying to get this information out. I will try to get all your questions answered, but I think sometimes if you let me finish a thought, your question may be answered. And if we go back and forth, stop and start, we'll get in rabbit holes and we won't finish and we only get halfway through the material. Fair enough? Okay, here we go. Make and receive offers. What are we going to learn today? Okay, before we start, here's housekeeping. I'm going to share with you. I've been in this business a long time and I've seen people come and go. This page, you need to do it. You need to add contacts to your database every day, 10 people in your database every day, write 10 notes if you can. I know it's the electronic age. You'll be surprised and preview 10 homes in a week. My first year of the business, I did not do that. I did 40,000. 40,000, and I'm a pretty talented guy. My second year in the business, I did that. I quadrupled my business. Okay, everybody on the same page? You do it, it works. I know I'm sounding like I'm talking to teenagers here. Go take out the trash, go do this. But this is the most important thing you can do, because if you don't generate business, doesn't matter how good you are at making and receiving offers. Everybody agree? Okay, let's move on. Okay, one more slide. I think we duplicated this slide. Here's what it's all about. Get your head in the game. The offer, the process of moving from a buyer or seller agreement to a sales contract. I will tell you, I'm a numbers person. My background is in mathematics and business statistics. 84% of multiple offers that I put in, we win as a team, okay? And I go against new agents, established agents, agents who do 400, 500, 600 transactions a year, and we win 84% when there's 3 or more offers. So the information I'm going to give you is not about just making an offer, it's about winning the offer. Fair enough? All right, let's get started. What I did was I took your manual that you have and I put the Dougie notes on it, because I think a lot of people just kind of like shoot from the hip and they go through and they give you their wisdom, and there's some really talented people in the Rawls Group family, because we're all family, right? So in our family, we have some really talented people. What I wanted to do today in my 3 hours is to make sure you got everything that was in my head. So I took the time to go back through this session and write down some of the important points, so you guys can see my notes. I would make sure you really want to delve into this the second time, I would go through it again, okay? So here we go. The 3 things in this chapter that are most important. You're going to learn to write and present offers that win. You're going to get the best offers for your sellers, and we're going to talk about how to do that. And then we're going to set the stage for successful negotiation. I wish I was teaching tomorrow. Unfortunately, we have another talented person teaching it. I think the person who presents offers and teaches and does the negotiation should be the same person. But unfortunately, that didn't work out this time. But I'm sure you're going to learn a lot of great stuff. What we're going to do at the end of the session is that I will give you my textable number. And at any time that you have questions, I have 5 minutes for my Rawls family, okay? Doesn't matter if you're in my office or not, we're all the same extended family in my eyes, all 6 offices. So if you have a question for me that you don't get answered today, I want to make sure you know that I have 5 minutes for anyone. Do not send me an email. I get 350 emails a day, okay? I will not read it. If you send me a text, and if I'm not with a client, I'll respond pretty quickly. If you don't hear a response from me, it's because I'm with a client or it's after hours, and I will respond the next available moment. Fair enough? Okay, I think most of you are still awake. Let's go. All right, make it happen, the offer process. There's 3 things that happens when you make an offer, okay? The seller can basically accept your offer, that's the middle one there, or to the left, they can counter that offer or they can reject the offer. Your goal is 2 of the 3. I'm okay if they counter, and I'm absolutely okay if they accept. I am not okay if they reject. So we're going to talk about some strategies and techniques in making receiving offers that keeps the seller engaged, right? You want the seller engaged. So how you write offers will keep the seller engaged. I'll tell you a story. About 5 months ago, we had a property that was rehabilitated. It was a great value, and it was at a lower price point, and we got 22 offers on it. 22 in a weekend. 7 offers went into the trash can, okay? The reason they went to the trash can is I talked to the seller. I have to send all 22 offers to the seller. So I'm doing a little bit of a non-literal translation here. And then I explain the offers, and I tell the seller there were 7 of these offers that were not filled out properly. 2 of these offers came from agents that have been in the business for 20 years. So the seller goes, well, if they can't fill out an offer properly, how are they going to be like when they negotiate? So let's just move those out, because it's always the seller's decision. It's never our decision as an agent, but you can tell the truth, tell what's going on, tell your experiences, right? So I want you to pay attention how we write these offers up, because if you are in a multiple offer situation, especially as a new agent, your offer may not be taken seriously, okay? And that's, if you don't have the door open for you where you can negotiate and it's already closed, then your client loses. All right, let's take a look at our next slide. Representing the buyer, okay? Here's what we have to do, and this is important. How do we prepare to write the offer? We're about to go over a checklist, and that's the first thing that you do. Preparation is the key. You will spend more time preparing for the offer than you actually write the offer if you want to have a winning offer. I know agents all the time, so I'll get you an offer in 10 minutes. I'm going, oh God, okay? That's not going to be a great offer. You need to make sure that the offer is prepared properly to give yourself the best chance to win the offer for your buyer. 2, writing the offer. I always suggest most of you, and I'm not in a gallery view. Let me see how I can do this. Give me a thumbs. Oops. All right. Kristen's down the hallway. I'm not going to make you run in here. I'll figure this out in a second. But, oh, that's Kristen. Hey, Kristen. So let's see. All right. I'm going to figure this out in a second. But most of you, I think I clicked on this. Most of you understand that to write your first offer, some of you have already written your first offer, that it might be a great idea to have it checked out by your coach. Most of you have coaches, correct? So I would always make sure it's read by someone else before you submit it. My wife is my teammate as far as agent, and we review each other's offers that we write. And I will tell you, I've been doing this a long time, and she catches me on some things that I made a mistake on. So please make sure you're doing that. All right, let's go back to our slide. Is it up, Kristen?
It is.
All right, how do I find it? Oops. Reviewing.
Maybe at the bottom, if you click on the Zoom button, it might come up.
But all I see is you right now. If I exit full screen, does that work? No, that's you. Oh, I think I found it.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I think that's it. Yes. So number 3, present the offer to the listing agent. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. We're going to look at a checklist for preparing an offer, and I have lots of notes on this. So you can go back and look at this later if you can't write this down. I know this is going, oh my gosh, Doug, this is chicken scratch, but I want you to see inside what I'm thinking from 30 years of experience. Okay. Is that helpful? All right. First, obtain the buyer's pre-poo letter from the lender. I want to tell you something that's very important here. All letters are not equal. Okay. There are different types of letters. There's pre-qualification letters. There are pre-approval letters. There are loan commitment letters. The most effective letter you can do in a multiple offer situation is a loan commitment letter or underwriter's letter. That is where your lender has actually looked at the information that's submitted, such as bank statements, employment history. and did verifications, turned it into an underwriter, let an underwriter look at it, and then you get a letter saying that if the house is appraised and you can transfer title, your client is approved for a loan. I'm telling you, in a multiple offer situation, representing a seller, and I get that type of letter from a buyer, do I care about any other letter? No, I don't, because they're ready to go. A pre-qualification letter is 30 minutes on the phone with a loan officer, entering input in a computer, and then spitting out a letter. Which one do I want? Something from an underwriter who's checked all the information from the buyer, or a pre-qualification letter that took 30 minutes? There's a difference. Everybody see that? Thumbs up? Okay. Because here's the thing. When you're in a multiple offer situation, and we're in a seller's market right now, that could be your closed door. If I'm competing against you, and let's say Rachel has an offer, Sarah has an offer, and I have an offer, okay? They're both good agents, right? My offer is going to have a loan commitment letter. Sarah may have talked to her person at her lender, and they got a pre-approval letter, and Rachel may have talked to her person and got a pre-approval letter, but I'm going to hit that seller agent hard, that listing agent hard, and say, look, we are done with the process. Why are you even going to look at anyone else? Now, let's say Sarah had a higher offer. What they're normally going to do is come back to me. If she offered 300, Rachel offered 295, and I offered 290, they're going to go, well, Doug, they're going to go with Sarah's offer, it's higher. But if I have that loan commitment letter, they're going to call me up and say, hey, Doug, would your client be willing to pay 300? You see where I'm getting at, okay? And I'm going to say, let me go talk to my client. Hey, we can have this house, if we go to 300. And they're going to go, in some cases, yes. See how that works. So your letters are not equal. Make sure you have the one, if possible. Talk to your clients. That loan commitment letter only takes 3 days. For Supreme Lending, our alliance partner, I know each office has a different alliance partner. Our alliance partner is 72 hours. And they will take that information, put it in an underwriter's hands, and get you a letter that says loan commitment. Number 2, comparative market analysis, okay? I concentrate on solds, and what I do is I use an FMLS printout. And I send it to them. I might send them 40, 45 solds around their area. Basically, you do what an appraiser may do. If you're not familiar, they will put a point on the house that they're appraising, go around a 1 mile radius, usually stay within the same school district if you have 2 school districts. Basically stay within a comparable build year. Like if yours is built in 1940, they're not comparing it to new construction. They're going to compare if yours is 3 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. They're going to try to stay in your neighborhood. So I widen it a little bit, what an appraiser would start with, and I send it to my clients, okay? And then I go from there and say, look, an appraiser's going to have to look at all these, evaluate it down to 3 to 5 comparables. That's what they're going to base your appraised value on. What a lot of people want to do, and agents want to do, is go off of actives. How many people know of properties out there right now that might be overpriced and would never sell at that price? Okay? So don't talk to your clients about actives. They're a good gauge mark as far as understanding what your competition is and what people will see. But there are plenty of properties that are overpriced that would never, ever sell close to the price they're listed at. So the key here is focus on solds. Next, review the tax records. The main thing you're looking for at tax records, in my mind, is you're checking on listing history. If you go down, and this is not a class to teach about tax records, but if you go down on Real List, which is the FMLS tax documents, about 3 pages, it will show the mortgage history. And the mortgage history will tell you, a public record, how much the mortgage was for. If a house is sold for $300,000 last year, okay, and it was an FHA loan, and they bought it and they're selling it now for $305,000, there's probably a situation where the seller is going to have to bring money to closing. When you understand these things, you can understand about the motivation of the seller. Are they going to lower that price much lower? Probably not. Another thing you look at is the listing history as far as the standpoint of when's the last time it was bought and sold. If it's been recently, it might indicate that it has some renovations. It might have been a flip. So you want to understand that, because then you want to know how much work was done on it and was the work permitted. Sometimes permitting is not as important as who did the work actually. and you want to make sure that you have a thorough inspection. So I like to look at those things. And then you're going to click also to, on the FMLS, there's an icon where you can see how long it's been on the actual market. This is really important. And I think we're going to talk about this in a second too. If you have a property, and I want you to really listen to this. If you have a property that's for sale at $300,000 and it's been on the market for 4 days, are you going to be able to purchase that property at $250,000? I like this, okay? You have to set the expectation of your buyers, because if you're not doing that, you will be showing 100 properties putting in 15 offers, okay? Here's a simple script that you can go back and listen to that I helped develop, and a lot of agents that I helped mentor over the years think it's very helpful. I tell them there's basically 2 types of properties on the market. There's one that's been on the market less than 14 days, and that's one that's been on the market more than 14 days. If a property you're interested in is on the market less than 14 days, be prepared to pay close to list price. If you put in a lower offer, all you are accomplishing is, if you put in an offer of $275 on a $300,000 property, the first thing that seller is going to tell that listing agent to do is call everybody who's seen the property and see if they will pay more. It's called shopping. It's legal. It's not unethical. Okay? They do it. So all you're doing is creating an opportunity. And if you probably have heard this, if you've done this for a while, you put in your offer and 12 hours later, oh, we received another offer. The only reason they received another offer is they took your offer to go get another offer. So this is very important to understand. Everybody understand that? Thumbs up. We're going to talk. I'm going to take your questions on that because people are, I know you have questions on this. Secondly, okay, if it is more than 14 days, then typically when you make an offer, most agents move to meet in the middle. Okay, I don't care how many comps you pull. I don't care what you send with it. The mindset, generally speaking, is on a $300,000 house, you put in an offer of $270 and the seller responds. Generally, the thinking is you're going to meet at $285, which is $15,000 up from the buyer and $15,000 down from the seller. That's how that works most of the time. You can have all the fancy CMAs and numbers, but I'm going to tell you that's how our industry has been geared. So to repeat, under 14 days, if you're not going close to list price, then you are probably going to be a victim of taking your offer to get more offers, okay? That's just the way it works. Another thing to remember, agents won't jump price points. If you're priced at 300, okay, and you offer 250, they're not, and you need to explain this to your buyer. Why would you take 250 before you market it at 275 to the general public? They are not going to jump price points. To me, price points in that range is $25,000. Okay, so when a buyer wants to offer $250 on a $300,000 property, you need to explain that. If it's been on the market for 8 months, then you might have a different situation. If it's been on the market for less than 14 days, you are wasting your time and you haven't done a good job of framing pricing to your client. This is your Uncle Doug talking to you. Everybody good? All right, it's good information. All right, let's go. Any questions? Let's open up just real quick because I know that's an important. Do we have any questions on that? Anybody want to ask anything on that? Anybody? Nope.
I have a question.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, tell me who this is.
My name is Dion DeLone, and I'm wondering, you said don't offer 250 on 300, so you're basically making the offer based on what the list price is and not what the CMAs are?
Okay, you can make any offer you want to. I'm trying to keep from you making 10 offers and getting 10 no's. If it's a property been on the market for 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, and you were the seller, and I made you an offer of 250 and you're priced at 300, what would you tell me? If I sent you a bunch of pricing, you're Mr. or Miss Listing Agent, whoever it may be, you're really off. You should have priced this at 250. It's what the information is saying, right? What are you going to tell me as a listing agent? Are you going to say, oh yeah, we'll take the 250?
I understand your point. So make an offer that they'll accept, and then once the appraisal doesn't come in, it'll get lowered anyway.
Okay, I'm not getting a good, is there a way of doing your volume a little louder? I'm sorry.
So I understand your point in terms of making an offer based on what's going to get accepted and not based on the value.
Well, it's not really what's going to get accepted because you never know. It's based on the probability. I'm a mathematician.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
My experience is 7,000 homes. If a home has been on the market 3 days and you offer 250 and it's 300, why would you accept that without waiting to see if you get any more offers and letting the market expose itself to all the potential buyers over the first 7 to 10 days?
No.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, there are times I've offered 250 on 300 and got it accepted, but the chances and probability are so slim at that price point, at that newness of on the market. Okay. So I did it in my young agent days. I put in offers. I did exactly what my buyers did. I didn't preference anything, didn't frame anything. And I did so much work and wasted so much time, and they got frustrated. When you have an honest conversation and ask them to put themselves in the seller's shoes, you have just created so much value with your client that you have such an understanding of the business that they're going to say, wow, okay? Your whole goal is to get referrals in this business. If you ask me, most successful agents are based on almost referral-based only business, and we are referral-based only business. I don't put my face on billboards, and you can see why, okay? My wife is a model, was a former model. I could put her face on the billboard, but we don't do that. But the bottom line is, if you want business after you finish this transaction, add value to your client. You want to add value to your client, educate yourself about the market and the industry and say, look, there may be a chance they take that 250. If you're looking for a deal, we don't look for a deal for properties that just came on the market in the first couple of days, right? I'm not telling them they can't do something. I'm saying let's do something and have the most success. If your goal is to go find some property at some price point, then we can't do that when it's very new on the market. Make sense?
I totally get it. Thank you, Doug.
Okay. And again, I'm not telling you not to do something. I'm telling you, people who are in this business a long time start looking at patterns and trends, and they educate their clients at the highest level. Now, does every client listen to us? Say, no, not every client will listen to us, Doug. They're still going to maybe put in the 250. So I get it. I understand all of that. But what I'm trying to do is give you best practices, okay? Best practices. All right, so let's look at the next. Ensure the property is still available. Here's the property. Do you guys realize, and this is from a broker, if you ask me if I have any offers on the property, I don't have to answer that question as a listing agent. I don't. And sometimes we don't. Why? Because there has been studies that show that if a person knows there is a offer on a property, you might have heard this if you've been in the business for any length of time, a buyer will say, I don't want to compete, okay? So you have to be careful. I like the question for the listing agent so you can always get the answer. Do you have an offer that you have to respond to in the next 24 hours? Because I need time. My client's going to put an offer together to get that to you. And then they will let you know. There are plenty of properties that got offers on that they would never accept. Use the $300,000 example. Somebody puts in a 250. They're not going to accept that, possibly, if it's just been on the market. Yeah, I got an offer. Now all of a sudden you got to tell your buyer they have an offer, and you might put in 295 or 300 because you think there's a competitive offer. Where there really isn't, there was just somebody lowballing it. Got it? So I like to use the question, do you have an offer that you have to respond to the next 24 hours? They're not responding to the 250 offer, so it's irrelevant. So that's important. That's one of the little tricks of the trade that I've learned, because everybody will say, yeah, I got an offer coming or whatever. It doesn't, you don't know what it's going to be. Okay. So let's just assume that, I always assume that if you want this property, we need to go in as high as possible. If you're okay with losing this property, then we'll go in at a lower amount. All right, so when speaking to the agent, it tells you to build rapport and gather as much information about the seller and property as you can. I will tell you, I worked with every agent, every company in this business work differently. You can't do this the same every time. I know we teach you to have a foundational method, but there are some agents who want to email only. There's some email agents that go blah, 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 blah. Those are great because they'll give you the leverage that you need to get it done. There's some agents that won't call you back in 48 hours. You can text them only. So building rapport and getting as much information can be difficult from situation to situation. What I like to try to do is stick to what's important. And I never say me, I always use the seller. Here's what's really important, the buyer. Here's what's really important. You don't want to give the impression that the information is for you, because then they may get tired of it. You always say, my buyer has a series of questions. Can I email them to you? I always email questions so they can email them to the client and the client can forward them back. So there's no misunderstanding. There's no loss. Like in kindergarten when we say the bus is yellow, the grass is green, roses are red, and it comes out that everything's purple. So if you really want to do this at the highest level, any questions that you have and any information you want to gather, always do an email form and always ask permission. Say, look, could you please forward this to your seller? My client has a few questions. Okay. Next, ask questions of listing to discover what's important to the seller. Okay. Find out what the time frame and motivation for moving. This allows you to customize the buyer's offer to address the seller's most pressing needs. Sometimes you can get them to do that. Sometimes you can't. If you've got a multiple offer situation and you think you have one and you have a little report to the agent, here's a technique that I use. I actually pull the offer, a blank offer form up. And if I can get a talkative agent going, that listing agent will fill out the offer for me. Okay? I will talk to the buyer. In most cases, the buyer will be okay with it because it'll probably be for list price. It'll probably be for an attorney that I know. We would probably, someone in the Keller Williams family or some brokers that I know is holding their money. Sometimes I'm okay with that. Probably be for due diligence period that we can make it work. And if you get the impression, if they're filling it out, they're not going to say no to their offer. Now you should have a big light bulb on your head because I told you 84% of the time I win multiple offers. I would say 30% of the time in my multiple offer situation, my listing agent is filling out my offer. Do I see any light bulbs, Joe? Can I hear this? Yay, that's a good idea because it works. And then my buyer has to approve it. And then there might be one or two things they don't like. And I say, look, we're competing with 7 other people. You're going to pay a price that seems reasonable. And all this other stuff does not matter when you close 25 days or 30 days. Where we use MMH or we use Weisman and Novak. Where you're in a multiple offer situation, it doesn't matter. If you're the only game in town, use all your alliance partners, use everyone. But that's a little trick. If you can get the listing agent to go, hey, let's just go through because I want to make sure that this is a win. This is what I said. I want to make sure this is a win for your seller. And in order to make sure this is a win for your seller, let me just go through this and I want to make sure that we are working on this together and my client wants this property, but we cannot read minds. We don't know what's in the mind of your seller. So help me go through this.
Going.
Yes, there's a question.
All right.
Did I hear a question? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No.
Okay, so I'll keep going. I think I scared everybody. Okay, we're going to get to a question and answer session in a second. All right, let me get out of this chat screen here. Okay. Oh, I did it again. Okay. I love teaching in person. This is all still new to me. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to get my screen back up here. Oh, I found it.
You actually see your screen.
All right, you can see my screen. Okay, good, because Kristen is amazing and she's making this work for us. All right, so here we go. There's one other thing I want to tell you that's really important. And before we move on through this, and some of this is advanced, but I think when you learn in the beginning It's important because you're going to be going against other buyer's agents that have a lot of experience, 5 and 10 and 15 years. So I want you to be able to compete, okay? So I'm going to tell you something I think is really important to understand. The more you know about the co-opting agent ahead of time, and remember, we can't be derogatory. If you can find out what inspector they like to use, what attorney they like to use, what lender they like to use, it will give you a huge advantage. Because if I know that someone likes Home Pro or whatever the inspection company is, I will tell them, hey, we're going to use Home Pro and Ashley Inspector, and we're only going to concentrate on mechanical and hidden and latent defects. Then they're going to relay that to their seller, right? Hey, they're going to use an inspector. They're not going to ask for crazy things. It's actually my inspector. If we're going to close with their attorney, they're going to say that. If we're going to use their mortgage person to pre-approve, you can still use your mortgage person, but if they pre-approve and they say, oh, that person's really a thumbs up, then you are already half a way down the course of winning the race, right? You're halfway down the track of winning the road race. So keep those things in mind. There's a little tips you should circle and say, oh, that makes sense to me. Because a lot of our services, especially if it's a Keller Williams agent, we have a lot of the same alliance partners. And it would make sense if in those cases that you consider using someone that the listing agent's already familiar with, if you're competing with other agents. Next, inquire about the activity of the property. Sometimes the information not be totally accurate, okay? Agents fluff and puff and, oh, I have 36 showings in the last 12 hours. So I don't think that's as important. I concentrate on how long it's been on the market, okay? And if it's just had a price reduction. If it was 300 on the market for 300 for 2 months and then it went to 275 and you put an offer in, you better bet it's the same principle because they're new at 275. You're not going to get it for 225. They're going to try and see if the 275 works. Make sense, everyone? You can put in 225, but again, I'm not telling you not to, but the chances are it's not the right property, okay? To do that at that time point. Obtain the seller's disclosure statement. Here's something that's very important. Never put in an offer without a complete disclosure statement. Because sometimes the information on the disclosure statement will keep your client from putting in the offer. And I've had this happen early in my career. I put in an offer, say, we will add the property seller's disclosure statement when the seller gets it filled out within 3 days of binding. 2 days later, statement comes over, roof has a giant hole in it from 2 years ago and it was repaired by Uncle Bubba. So, and it's 30-year-old roof. HVAC system, 28 years old. You see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden we offered a price that we would offer differently if we would have known those things. Wait, unless the multiple offer situation and you know they got to make a decision and everybody's in the same playing field, wait till you get that seller's property disclosure. Find out if there have been other offers. Again, sometimes the information not be accurate. As a buyer's agent, if this listing agent has not put a property under contract in 72 hours in FMLS, you can fill out the paperwork as a buyer's agent or hit the little police button. They don't notice you, it's anonymous. And the FMLS, there's a little police button. And you can hit it and it's anonymous and say, property is still showing as active. Because what you want is pressure on the listing agent to change it to a pending or due diligence status because they are less likely to terminate if they know it's showing in the records that it has been under contract. That's why a lot of listing agents will try to wait till it's out of due diligence before putting it under contract. If you're a buyer's agent and you got 10 days due diligence, you need to make sure that that shows that. It will give you more leverage in negotiating down the road. A lot of people don't understand that and do that, but it will keep them from just punting you. Because guess who gets phone calls if we terminate a contract from the next buyer's agent? I do. Because I am showing up there that I had it under contract. And we don't terminate a lot. We try to make things work out. But where we have terminated, that next buyer has called me and can I provide accurate, truthful material, hidden and latent defects that we discovered on that property? Yes, I can, because that's what license law tells us. We have to inform consumers of that, okay? Now, I'm not ugly, I'm always professional, and I don't talk negative about agents, but consumers need to know. All right, let's go to the next page. All right, before we write the offer, any questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Gillis?
Yes, the seller disclosure statement, are
Yes,
they
ma'am.
required to allow us to see that, or they can refuse?
Are they required to see that? So
If we request it.
okay, in the state of Georgia, it's not required disclosure. So you do not,
There's an echo. I'm sorry, I'm losing you.
okay? Can you, everybody mute Mike. Is that good? All right, is that good? All right, so basically what happens, Ms. Gillis, is you do not have to have a property seller's disclosure in the state of Georgia, okay? It's not required. A lot of investors, if they haven't lived in a house, will not have one, okay? 98, 99, 99.5% of the time, it's recommended if you're working with a seller to get them to fill one out, okay? Now, just because you don't have a seller's disclosure, in the state of Georgia, a seller is obligated, and the agent that is representing that seller, here's my broker hat, has to disclose hidden material latent defects. Has to. You see the word as is, and they know of a structural defect in the property, or there's mold, or there's a hole in the roof. Those are considered defects to the property that would affect the sale of the property. So therefore, they have to be disclosed. So when you see as is, that doesn't mean they shouldn't disclose anything. Now, visual stuff, they say if it's visually, if you're able to see it under normal circumstances, they don't have to write it down. But if it's something, you know, if there's mold behind the wall and they just washed it off and they know it's on the other side, they got to disclose that, okay? If there's a big crack in the foundation and they had a structural engineer tell them it was a crack and they're just saying, oh, it's just a normal settling crack, they have to disclose it. So with the seller's disclosures, if it's a regular resale property, a traditional property, and they have filled that out, they have to provide that to all consumers. They can't say, I'm going to give it to Sarah, but I'm not going to give it to Ms. Thurman. I'm just going to get, or not going to give it to Ms. Gillis. I'm going to give it to Doug. So they have to give it to everybody. Does that make sense? All right.
So are you saying that you need to request that disclosure before making the offer, or?
Yes, because what if it has information on it that would make you decide not to offer on that house?
Right, gotcha, okay.
We're gonna do something really fun. I've got a whole offer put together, a whole GAR contract, offer, purchase and sell. And with the seller's disclosure, we're gonna go through some of the things that people fill out wrong, what you should fill out, that type of thing. Would that be a good exercise?
Yes.
All right, here we go. So writing the offer. Keep these guidelines in mind when you use the checklist on the previous page, you write the offer. Ensure your buyers know all the checks, earnest money are written at the same time. Okay, so basically the way I do earnest money, I do it after the offer has been accepted and becomes binding. I usually do 3 to 5 days, okay? You can do check, you can do wire, whatever. Every office, I'm pretty sure, in our Rawls Group family has an outside deposit box that you can drop your checks on. I believe that's correct, okay? So, or you can have it wired. But I always do it afterwards. Some people like to collect the check, put it in their folder, hold it, offer doesn't get accepted, now they got to go take the check back. I don't like that. Only if you have an out-of-town buyer or something that you have to navigate logistics would you do it ahead, because I'm afraid I would lose it, all right? Also in earnest money, here's my broker hat. You have to turn it in as soon as possible. Do not hold on to it. Get it to your office, okay? Now they can hold it. You can put a request that my buyer wants me to hold it for a few days, okay? So you can do that. But I want to make sure that you understand it should be turned in as quick as possible. All right, let's go down some other things. I always review offers line by line. I literally do not send something over for electronic signature until I went over the PDF. Every blank filled in, I want them to understand. Because when you start doing it, a lot of you will be very successful agents and do a lot of volume. There will be a mistake made. You didn't go over space, you filled something in, they had a misunderstanding. It happens with earnest money a lot. They think they're putting $10,000 in earnest money in and you wrote in 20,000. And they got accepted because all they did was sign, electronic signature, click, 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 click. And then guess where that other 10,000 of earnest money is coming from? True story. Only reason I said that because it has happened to me. Next, summarize the offer. I always go through, it says, include a brief list of bullet points that capture the key items on the offer checklist. I think there's advantages and disadvantages of it. So I won't get into that. I just like to send it over and just talk to the agent and said, read it, tell me if you have questions, okay? Humanize the offer. The sale of a home is more than just a transactional paper. Sometimes, you know, why the buyer likes the house, you've seen the letters or you've probably been told about this. If you're buying a house that has feature cards or what we love about the house on the counter, you've seen that from sellers, or we love this house because of these 10 reasons, then I think it probably makes sense for the buyer to do the same thing. And then you take that 10-point list and you incorporate it in your buyer's letter in a multiple offer situation. But I've had people say they think it's a waste of time as sellers. So it really just depends on if the seller has, you know, they talk about the features and benefits of their house, then it's good as a buyer to talk about that. Okay. Let's see. Let's slide up a little bit, Kristen. I think Kristen's. Okay. Exhibit buyer schedule to closing, seller's copy. Okay. Here's something that's new, and I want to put this down. I didn't give you an example of it, but I think it will help new agents to compete. If I turn in an offer, and let's say Ms. Black turns in an offer, and Ms. Gillis has a client, and let's say Ms. Thurman is the listing agent. If you're a new agent sometimes, I think it helps to explain how you're going to communicate during the process. Because I think the key for listing agents, like I said, there were 5, the one we had 22 offers. I told my seller, look, 5 of these aren't even completed correctly. Do you want me to go back and have the agent complete them, or do you want me to discard them? And I sent them to him, and he goes, discard them, okay? So I think communication and understanding of how you're going to move as a buyer's agent in the process and your client's going to move can help you get chosen. For example, what if your cover letter said this? And I'm paraphrasing, okay? And I want you to pay attention because this is important. What if I was an agent and I said to you, and you were the listing agent, and I said, my clients really look forward and we hope we get our offer accepted, and we believe it will be, because here's what's going to happen first once our offer is accepted. As soon as it's accepted, I'm going to call the mortgage company and give your seller's name and contact information, as well as you, Mr. Listing Agent or Miss Listing Agent's name and contact information, so you can be updated during the mortgage process anytime that you want. You're going to be giving permission that you can call in, and any status, any update, where we are in the process, what's been turned in, you will be told truthfully by the mortgage person. Secondly, the day that we are approved, we're going to go ahead and order an inspection the first day. So you won't have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 days or wonder that we're going to wait to day 13 to day 14 for the inspection. It will be scheduled by a licensed ASHI inspector that you're familiar with. I know your office also uses Home Pro. That's who we're going to use. Next point. Once that inspection comes in, rest assured, we're only going to ask for mechanical, hidden, laden, structural problems. We will not ask for the bathroom to be painted pink or cosmetic issues. Rest assured, your seller will not have those type of amendment points if we ask for anything. Okay. Next one. Each Thursday, you will get an update from me where we are in the paperwork process. Any request to see the house will be done 48 hours in advance, and we will make sure that we are courteous and follow all COVID guidelines when we enter your house, and so on and so on and so on. Attach that as an exhibit. Don't put it as an email. Here's why. 50% of the time, and I checked with one of my brokers in California that I talk with a lot. He has over 1,200 agents in his office, and they did a lot of research and study. He's kind of like me. He's kind of like a, you know, strategist and looks at the numbers. He found that when his buyer's agents did that type of an intro letter, showing a seller that they will be communicated with financially about what's going on, that everything would be ordered, that the appraisal, another one that they had in there was the appraisal would be ordered from day one, okay, especially if you know it's going to appraise. That they got selected over 60, I think it was 65, 70% more in multiple offer situations with that letter than when without that letter, because he does study groups. He'll take 3 months and do it one way and do it another way and see which one's the better way, which I think is amazing. Because what you're telling the seller is that you're an agent that's on top of their game. They will be communicated to, because one of the most important things they just want to know is what's happening. Got it? So if you tell them you're going to do these things, it doesn't matter if you're Madeline Suits, Jennifer Barnes, or one of those are top agents in our office, or Doug Graves, or if you're doing your first transaction. The listing agent's not going to know that, right? So the listing agent is going to go, if I don't know those 3 people, I just know by reputation or how busy they are, and they see that letter, the seller's going to see it if it's part of the exhibit. And then the seller is going to go, oh, I'll take that offer. I'll take that offer because I know what's going to happen. And if you do it as an email, how many times do you think listing agents forward your email with the offer? It's less than 25%. What they're going to do is save the offer in the PDF or whatever onto a file. Then they're going to take an email to their client and say, here's the offer we just received. A lot of times that cover stuff on an email is not included. All that wonderful stuff you want to tell them is not included. A listing agent will not forward that to a seller a lot of times. Does that make sense to you? So if you have important information like that or anything like that, a cover letter, anything like that, put it as an exhibit. An exhibit is looked at because it's inside the body of the contract. And I actually put that letter, if it's exhibit A, I put it on top because that's the first thing the seller is going to read. Make sense? Okay. All right. Let's go next page. Checklist for writing an offer. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to go through this quickly, but the actual offer is going to show you what we're doing, but I think we're going to go through this pretty quick. What's our time? We got a little bit before 2. Any questions on this so far before we go through the checklist?
Yeah, Doug, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Cindy.
Hi. You said that get the, you're going to order the inspection and the appraisal at the same time. Do you not want to wait for the inspection first before you order the appraisal?
Again, it depends on the situation,
Okay.
right? So if I'm in a multiple offer situation, if I say I'm going to do that, then there's no delays, okay? If I know that it's a house that my client's putting, okay, I'm gonna give you another tidbit from the financial standpoint. Any house with 20% down or more, I would give you, I would bet the farm, my house, my BMW, my children, that it's going to appraise, okay? I have never seen something not appraised with 20% down. I've been doing this a long time, maybe once or twice. Okay, does that make sense, Cindy? If it's an FHA or VA loan, 96.5% loan to value with only 3.5% down, or VA loan, which is 100%, I would not order the appraisal up front because it could not appraise. Make sense? So if I know I'm 20% down and I'm competing, I am ordering that freaking appraisal because it's going to appraise every single time. The seller thinks you're doing something great. The listing agent, 95% of agents don't have a clue about this. So therefore they go, oh, wow, he's ordered the appraisal early. That's a good sign. So I'm looking for things to get me in favor with the seller. So the reason that is because underwriters that have equity, if they're making the decision, right, they get a file and they got 50 files they got to review in a 10-hour period to decide whether or not the loan goes okay or the loan does not go okay. All right? They're first looking at how much you're putting down, and they all go in a stack that they're going to spend 5 minutes on. Okay? And the ones that are not putting 20% down, they're going to go in a stack that they're going to spend a lot more time on because a bank will be upside down if the appraisal's not right. If the appraisal's off 10% on a 20% down, they still got equity in it and they don't care. Okay? So my policy makes me look good to the seller. I order the appraisal with 20% down or more.
What I was more worried about is something coming back in the inspection, and then you terminate, and then you've already ordered the appraisal.
Sure. If you're buying a crack house, I hope I say that, or just any bad house, I know I'm going to get in trouble. Sorry, Ms.
You're
Ross.
fine.
So I just keep it real. You guys are knowing just a dude who talks a lot and keeps it real. If I have warning signs, then no, I don't do it. But if I think it's pretty clean and I want to gain leverage, I do it. A lot of this is playing poker. All right, I'm a Vegas guy, so I love to hedge my bet. I'm a mathematical guy, so I know probabilities. I play probabilities. I look at if I get a really good chance, then it's low risk, I'll do it. If it's a high risk, I won't. But I always explain to my clients their final decision, and I explain, hey, here's what I'm doing and here's why I'm thinking this. The client says, I can't do that, then I'm not going to push it, right? Because I'm a facilitator. But good points. Those are really good questions, Cindy. There's no stupid questions. There's just questions that you ask that I've already answered that you didn't listen to the answer, okay? That's what my wife tells me all the time. So when I ask her questions, I said, I already told you that, stupid. So here we go. Good question. So let's just look at this real quick, and then we're going to actually look at, I think we're going to be okay to start looking at actually an offer, and this is going to blow your mind. I hope these notes help. Sometimes it makes people crazy, but this is what's coming out of my brain I want you to see. So price and terms. We kind of talked about this. On the market, 30 plus days, because most agents are going to do 30 or more. I say it's 14 because the internet, every buyer is going to see it. If they're looking right now for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, and $300,000 price range, they've seen it on Zillow, Redfin, Keller Williams, whatever, in the first 14 days if they're looking every other day. So they're just not going to jump. They're not going to be aggressive on price and reducing it. I know we had the example 300, 250. Could you try it? Absolutely. But in the beginning, it's just going to be a low probability, just like winning the lottery. Okay? You could win it. New listing. I like to tell my buyers that they can make that decision. I'll say, well, we'll do it, but you should know the probability. New listing, 0, 14, 28 days list price. So again, I think list price, somebody said, are you just going to give them what they want? I say if it's a brand new listing and you like it and you want to buy it, unless it's so off, like it's just way off, I just think you're going to have to go close to list price because the seller's just going to say no, right? They haven't seen anybody else. They haven't had time for other people to look at it. Over 28 days, you can have some negotiation. Seller's disclosure. Here's another thing, and I'm going to spank you. Everybody hold their little hands out. Do not ever, ever, ever fill out a seller's disclosure for anybody. Do not be a scribe because in broker school, they'll tell you that could come back to haunt you. And I'll tell you the other thing, if they miss something, like they forgot to check page 3, just one box, no, don't check it. Because when Judge Judy, if you ever have to go to court, Judge Judy's going to say, did you answer any of those questions, Ms. Gillis? And you're going to say, no, ma'am, right? Because you didn't do it. I sent it back to her and she checked that box, right? So that's something important to really know, okay? Do not ever. Always double check and make sure the yes answers are explained. You are not to co-sim on the seller's disclosures. You will absolutely check and make sure it's filled out completely. That's it. Duplication fixtures need to explain. We're going to go in that in more detail when we go over the actual property disclosure we're going to see as an example. Conveyances. In some states, now this is written as a national audience. They teach Ignite in all 50 states in Canada and I think foreign countries. In the state of Georgia, we use what's called the fixture sheet on the back to say what stays with the property. In Michigan, for example, they have to write in the actual stipulation of the contract, stove stays, wash machine stays, refrigerator stays, or they have to say all appliances stay. In our contracts, we check the back of the property disclosure if there is one, right? And then if you have personal items for sale, like they want to buy 2 paintings, some furniture, stuff like that, there's a GAR form, bill of sale, that you use for personal items, okay? You can say the bill of sale is 0, there's no cost, but you use that form. I wouldn't put personal items on the contract. Make sense? All right, that's best practice. Earnest money, there's typical, to me, in this marketplace, if you put less than 1%, most sellers are conditioned to say they're not serious. I understand the lower price homes. We've done every price point. We had a $100,000 home, somebody put $500 down. You know, we just basically countered them to go higher. But I would say in our marketplace, generally 1% is what you see. Okay? Next, let's slide up a little bit, Miss Kristen, and look at time for seller. Okay, time for seller acceptance. I would always use, I would be careful about putting too much time on the seller, like trying to crunch them down, because the seller will not answer if they don't have enough time to answer. They won't say, give me more time. They'll just, you won't have a response, and then your offer expires. I do ask the agent and say, is 24 hours enough? And the way I explain it, I always put it on my client so they don't go, well, you're not giving me enough time, Doug. I'm going to say, well, you know, my buyers have a second choice. Your first choice is what they want, but you know it's a seller's market right now, and if we can't get this worked out, I want to make sure they have their second choice. I don't want to lose that for them. So that's why our timetable is listed. Now, you've done two things there. You planted the seed that, oh, they might not buy my house. I might not have all the leverage. That's the first thing they're going to go tell their seller. You know, they may buy their second choice. We need to accept this. I find 30 to 40% of the time, I won't even get a counter back when I use that line. I'll say it again. The reason we wanted a 12-hour, you know, the reason I know I'm turning this in at 8 a.m. and the reason we want an end of day time limit is because, as you know, my clients love this house. They want to purchase this house, but sometimes things don't work out and they don't want to lose their second choice and have someone buy their second choice and be homeless. And you'll just say, oh my God. They'll hang up the phone and go, if I was a fly on the wall, we got an offer, we got to respond quick because we don't want to lose them. They might get their other house. Get it? You see the strategy in this, okay? Financing terms, make sure financing terms would be agreeable to your buyer and seller. I think the lender timeline is important. A lot of people say they can close in 10 days. When you call the lender, they go, no, we can't do that. So I think the very first thing you do when you receive an offer is talk to the lender. I don't care what the letter says. I want to get someone on the phone. And a lot of them just like talk, and you can find out so much stuff. Yeah, we should be able to do 21 days if their rescoring or their credit report gets back because they've had 3 bankruptcies and then that alimony check showed up. And I think I can get that worked out in time. Thank you very much, Scott. We'll be in touch, okay? Not taking that offer, okay? So you want to talk to the lenders, and the timeline is really important. Buyer pre-approval letter. We talked about the underwriter's commitment letter. It takes 3 extra days. Your lenders usually will do it. If they won't, find a lender that will do it. Supreme does it. They're our financial arm. Kim Neely at our office here. We all have great alliance partners throughout the Rawls group. I'm sure you can find someone that does that, especially if you're in a price point that's going to be highly competitive. We had an agent that was on call, broker on call for a week that our compliance, or it might have been a weekend, one of the weekends, or compliance broker was on sick or out leave or whatever. And I do a lot of our backup compliance broker. And they had lost 6 straight offers. It was a VA loan. So a lot of sellers don't want to take 100%. So what I told her to do, go get underwritten and say, we're through with the process. And then they put that in the letter. We're already done with our process. God bless America. My client served the country, whatever. But the bottom line is they're 7th, they won. Okay? And it was a multiple offer situation. They were in a $200,000 price point in Marietta, and it was very competitive. Next, loan approval. Remember, okay, the mortgage person, it says in this that they allow your buyer ample time to finalize their financing. Check with your team leader for the average number of business days to be expected. You check with your mortgage person, okay? We are real estate people. We're not attorneys. We're not mortgage people. I let people in their specialties answer questions about their specialty. Anything to financing, I can give them an overview and tell them the importance of getting underwritten, but the mortgage person is going to tell them what the rates are, how long it's going to take, and those type of things, right? Make sense? All right, let's go to the next page, closing date. Making sure that the closing date will work for your buyer, their lender. The lender is the most important. Closing company doesn't matter. The closing company, you guys realize in our state, we're an attorney state, the attorney does not represent your client as a buyer. You choose him. The attorney represents the lender, okay? So I always think it's important that you talk to the lender, and the lender will basically help you determine when the closing date's going to be. And the attorney basically will work with the lender. And that's why in a lot of cases, you want the lender and the attorney, you want to make sure that relationship is working together. All right. Home warranty, buyer chooses. I always give my buyers 3 choices. I never, ever, ever tell them what home warranty. We've had plenty of agents go into our broker's office, and the buyers, it was 3 months after they closed, and the buyer screaming at them, my house is a money pit, okay? Because their home warranty won't cover anything because you chose somebody who gave you some extra free pencils or some magnets or whatever. So I never choose the home warranty company. I give them lots of choices, all right? Same with inspectors, same with any type of situation. Once you say, I can put somebody's name at the top, and if I feel really good about somebody, I can say, I personally have used this person. I can't guarantee their work, but I personally use this person. Or 95% of my clients have rated them 5 stars out of 5 stars. But sometimes you go through McDonald's drive-thru and you get cold French fries. That's what I tell people. So you can't guarantee anything. Repair limits. In our state, repairs are done after the offer is accepted, not before. We don't sit there and say, I want you to fix this, this, and this in the offer. They're probably not going to take your offer. So in our state, it's most likely, as opposed to New York. In New York, you negotiate repairs, then each attorney goes and signs the contract. But in our state, we do it afterwards. Special clauses or contingencies. Here's the 3 most common contingencies you will have in a contract. And you probably didn't know they were called contingencies. One is the due diligence for that period of time that you have to inspect a home. For any reason, you can terminate and get your, in 99.99999% of the times, you will receive your earnest money back quite quickly. 2, the appraisal contingency if it doesn't appraise. And 3, the financing contingency, okay? So those are the 3 contingencies you see the most. And then the other one is the contingency to sell a property. Like you might have heard this. Your buyer has to sell their property before they can buy a property. That's called a property contingency, okay? All right, let's scroll up. I think I have a few more notes here at the bottom. Important note, listing agents will forward your offer, not your email. I've already said that. So if you email and have some important stuff in there you want the seller to know, put it in an exhibit. Just have it as an exhibit, like important things for the seller to know, whatever, because it's in the contract and they have to present that. They will most of the time not cut and paste what you're trying to tell the seller. Send it always, okay, if you can do this. I know with dot loop and all these different loopies and command and all these different things, you have a purchase sale agreement as one file. You have property seller's disclosure as another file. You have conventional financing exhibit as another file. And the offer itself is like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, right? 8 or 9 or 10 little pieces, okay? You send that over, they have to print out each one. Or they have to open each one. I always scan everything before I send it to an agent. I print it out. The office, basically, the scan is not a charge. You have to print. I think we get, I'll have to ask Kristen, I think we get an allowance, right, at the office to do black and white prints with our office fee. Maybe not. Kristen? No? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. So, again, I probably just got in trouble. So, or everybody's going to get their printing bill sent to me, I guess. So, anyway, what we're going to do is I always try to print out and I scan it as one document. Listing agents are very appreciative of that, not having to open up each individual document or forward all these documents to their client to present an offer. All right, so I think we got questions, right, Kristen?
There are definitely some things rolling in on the chat.
All right, let's see. Doug, don't talk so fast. No, I didn't see that one. All right, let's see. Let's take a look before we move on. All right, storming in North Cobb as well. Okay, sorry about the weather. Finish our bed over here in Gwinnett, just in case my power goes down. All right. Thank you, Ms. Briggs, for letting us know. Let's see. Who keeps the earnest money if the buyer decides not to buy the house after due diligence? That is a very good question. Here's another thing we're going to get into in a second. Your brokerage should hold earnest money whether you're the buyer or the seller. You always want to negotiate that because guess who you want making the decision who gets the earnest money? Your clients or qualifying broker. Ms. Lynn LaCraw, in some of your offices, in my office, it's Kathy Woods, who I've known for over 3 decades, is a mentor of mine in the business. and I know she's going to interpret the contract fairly. So after due diligence, you have to read the contract. Who's in default? Is the buyer in default or is the seller in default? If the property didn't appraise within the appraisal contingency, like let's say you had 21 days for the property to appraise or not to appraise and it didn't, and you couldn't work it out, and it was day 15, you're within that. You would put in a request that, hey, I'm unilaterally terminating. We could not figure it out. And the earnest money goes to the buyer. Now, both parties have to sign off to release the earnest money. If it's cut and dried, mostly, if it's been a very productive conversation, most parties, the buyer's party and the seller's party, will agree how the earnest money is to be distributed, okay? If it's not agreed upon, then your compliance broker or qualifying broker has to make a decision. Because if you haven't seen, go to your GAR forms, we're gonna talk about that in a second, you're gonna pull that up. There's a unilateral and a mutual termination of an agreement. And there's two sections to that. The first section says unilaterally, who's terminating, either the buyer or the seller, and what reason. And then below, the second section says who's going to get the earnest money, and both parties have to agree. Got it? That's how that works. If both parties don't agree, then the broker decides. And the broker will say, due to the information I reviewed, you have 10 days, the party who's not signing, to sign. If you haven't signed, or a period of time, it doesn't have to be 10 days, period of time they haven't signed, then they will issue a letter, their judgment, saying, here's what I'm going to decide to do, and I'm going to release the earnest money to this party or this party. Now, it gets more complicated than that. If at that point there's still an argument about it, then it goes to what's called an interpleader, and this is not really the class for that. But the contract basically outlines who should get the earnest money, but both parties have to agree to the release of it. And in most situations, if they don't, then the broker makes the decision. You always want your broker making the decision, because I've seen plenty of brokers out there that will favor their own agents or basically have trouble adding three numbers together. So how are you going to expect them making a great interpretation of how the earnest money should be done? Okay, it should be distributed. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question? Is it seen? Seen, you get it answered? Okay, maybe Sing's still here. Let's see.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Exhibit A, what do you call that exhibit, Exhibit A? Okay, let's see. Is it Alexis? Alexis, tell me your question.
Hey, I was just wondering, when you were talking about the exhibit that you include like all of the introduction details, do you call it anything other than Exhibit A, or is it just Exhibit A?
It could be Exhibit A, it could be anything you want. Sometimes sellers will already have preloaded exhibits up, like the legal description.
Mm-hmm.
In a second, I always think you should get a legal description from your attorney, alliance partner. It only takes an hour or two. You can just request it from Real List. Real List, you send them a Real List and say, I like to have a legal description on this property, I'm about to list it. Or I like to have a legal description of property I'm about to make an offer on it. And they're pretty quick. Our alliance partners are pretty quick, and I'm sure all the Rawls groups are. But you can call it any exhibit number. They don't have to be sent to them in order, okay? So I always put, if I really want to use that, like, hey, I'm going to be communicative, I'm the very best, and here's what we're going to do, and I want the seller to see that, I put that on the front freaking page, because all they're going to do is take the file and send it. And if it's one PDF, they can't leave off something, right? Make sense? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I think, did I get all the questions, Christian? Please double check.
Hey, Doug, I have a question. If you don't mind.
Yes.
Doug?
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead. Who's first?
Conrad.
Okay, we'll let Mr. Conrad go. Age
All
before.
right, going back to you, I guess I want a little more clarification on the statement that you made about appraisal. When you
Yes.
write an offer, if it's the appraisal will depend on the down payment. In other words, a 20% down payment, you almost guarantee that property will appraise out. And if it's less, it is not. So how does that, what's the rationale behind that?
It's just what happens. Okay. Again, remember, this is not Doug's opinion. This is Doug's learning from experiences. When I was in the financial world, we did over 5,000 1,000 different investment commercial transactions. So I have that experience. Then my team, we've been a pretty high producing team for 14 years. And then all my brokers share with their statistics. And I take that information and I put it in, stir it up, and then see what it says. And I have friends still in the mortgage business, CEOs, underwriting managers of companies. And I ask them, what happens when 20% comes down? How? And this is when you're having a drink with them, right? And they're telling you the truth, the inside scoop. I said, what happens when you're not worried about a property appraising it, and because of the borrower has so much money down, are you really looking at this? And they said, sometimes we don't even require an appraisal. And if we did, and it's more than 20% down, it kind of goes, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. We're worried about that $250,000 property that's 100% financed. That if it's worth $245,000, we're upside down to begin with. But if it's a $300,000 property and they sold another house, they're putting $100,000 down, we don't care if it comes in at $295,000 or $285,000 because they're only borrowing $200,000. So, Conrad, that is just, sometimes it's unwritten rules. There's no rule that says it's going to absolutely appraise, but if you did 20,000 transactions, 19,988 of them are going to appraise. Does that make sense? Did I lose it? Okay. I think he took my answer and went home.
You may be losing a lot of people. The weather's getting really ugly.
Oh,
Yeah, it's thundering and it's thundering.
okay. I'm sorry. So, Miss Brady, I think you had the next question, right?
So yes, yes, I want to know if it's okay culturally. Like if I want to put in an offer, instead of writing it, just call you up and say, hey, Doug, my client, my buyer this is the offer we're thinking about. Can you just pass it through to your, do I have to put it in writing until we get to a point where it's a serious offer that's going to be accepted?
All right. So if you ask 10 very experienced agents, you're going to get 10 answers. You want to hear what I do?
Yes, sir.
I tell my seller that I want to make sure communication is clear through our process, because they can do any offer they want. I always get permission to move, and I give them reason the way I move in certain ways. And I ask the seller, I do a pretty thorough several consultations throughout this process. Like when we're about to go live, I say, let's talk about when you get an offer. There's a couple things I want to know. Do you want me to call you every time that somebody says, hey, I'll give you this for it, I'll give you that for it, and I'll send you an email? Or do you want them filled out on a more written form? Because I cannot make it. Just make sure we understand. You cannot make an agent put it on a GAR form. So it just has to be in writing. I do not take verbal offers because what if I miss something? I've had people have 20 points just on the phone going, we want to do this and this and that. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I can't write fast enough. What if I miss something? So, Ms. Brady, I think on the original offer, it has to be in some form of writing. I absolutely want a GAR form, but I can't make them do a GAR form. There are plenty of agents that work and use RE forms. I have had offers on email format, okay? But I do not do verbal because I ask my client, seller, because the likelihood of me not being able to accurately translate what a buyer's agent tells me to you in a verbal content, are you okay with me making sure that it's a written offer? Does that
But
make
you won't, it does, but you won't be offended if I were to just send you over an email. Hi, this is our offer. Please let us know.
I am not offended because that's not my job. I'm never offended with lowball offers.
Okay.
It's an offer. I'm always respectful and professional because I hope we always get to work together, because everybody, I think our agent community should be a family. We can all agree to disagree and be professional with each other. Just because we might work for different companies, or either in our case, we work for the same family, but we work for different offices. I always going to be respectful, but I will tell you, if I'm in a multiple offer situation and you send me an email and somebody else sends me a very complete offer, and I send that to my seller, you think my seller is going to entertain your email offer? Seriously? Let's say you offer $290 and the other one offered $285, and it's very complete and has all the information in it, has all the exhibits, the financing contingencies, already been checked out, underwritten letter. Is he going to look at that offer, Miss Brady, or is he going to look at the offer that's on an email? So I would strongly consider, if your client really is trying to purchase a home, that you give a complete offer. If it's an investment property, I get it. Like some of you are gonna do investment properties, absolutely. So hey, I gotta say hi to Miss Black's little girl. Hey. So, but does that make sense?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I know why you do it, right? You want to do it because, hey, I don't know if they're going to take it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, right?
Yes.
I get it. But what you're sending a message to the seller is, you didn't take enough time to really seriously give me an offer. And if somebody else does, and is it Fennel? Miss Fennel? Is it Miss Fennel?
Fennel, close.
Fennel? Okay. So Miss Fennel gives me one, and she gives me one very complete. The seller, I promise you from my experience, will look at it differently.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. I know why you do it, so I hope that answers your question. All right, do we have another one? We're going to take one more, and then we're going to go on to actually looking at the offer.
Thank you.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
So with the, oh, I wrote it down now, I can't find it. Oh, the time for acceptance. You said to specify that you want a response as soon as possible. So as far as the 12-hour window, is that just good practice to turn in 12 hours, or?
If I do first thing in the morning, I ask for the end of the day. If I do 12 noon, I ask for 12 noon the next day. That's usually, and then I always use that because I promise you, every buyer should have a second choice, right? We might not know what it is, okay? So I'm talking truthfully. I'm always an honest Boy Scout person that I don't have to give you all the details, but we would have a second choice if we don't get our first choice. So I'm painting the picture to my seller is, I want to know real quickly if this is going to work or not, so my buyer won't lose the second choice. If we spend a lot of time with this, the property that we might want to go look at is already under contract because we spent 24, 36 hours waiting on the seller.
Right.
If you explain it in that way, they're usually okay with a shorter time frame. And I ask them, and there's extenuating circumstances, like if it's an estate, like a mom has passed, it was mom's house, and there's 3 siblings, and they're in different states, and you need 24, 48 hours, I get it. But you always ask and say, here's why we're asking that. That's usually in the conversation before you fill out the offer. Here's how much time I'm going to give you to respond. Will this be enough? Because you understand this may not work out, and my client doesn't want to lose their second choice.
Right. So what if the client?
I also want to prevent the seller, Ms. Gillis, from taking your offer and go, let me go shop it. So the longer you give them, the more likelihood that's going to happen. That's another reason you don't want to offer 250 on the 300, right? Because you know it's going to happen. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's short term on the market. Be careful doing that. All right, let's get one more. I think somebody else had a question. And then we're going to answer more, but I just want to make sure because we're getting close to break. Anyone?
I have a question.
Yes.
I want to get back to the legal description. You're not, with the legal description, you're not trusting the public record for the contract. I really didn't understand that part.
I never trust the public record for
Okay.
But no, I think what happens is there's 2 things here, and I'm wearing my broker hat. You don't want to be responsible for the description of this property. If it's filled out improper, you miss a lot number, you miss a block number, and all of a sudden you get the closing and you sell the wrong property,
Okay.
Attorney is the legal entity here that's going to be closing and transferring.
Does the settlement attorney like follow up on that and do the due diligence on that?
We'll let him give you, because it doesn't, okay, look at why. Because remember, I'm a mathematician. I do things early. I do things efficiently, right? Don't we get the attorney to do that in the beginning, right?
Okay.
So all you do is you go get the real list tax document, which is on FMLS. And if you don't know, one of your friends will show you or a coach will show you. It's a little 2 to 3 page document. You attach that to your attorney and say, look, can I please have a legal description for this?
Does that cost anything?
Nope, not in our office. Don't think any of the Ross Group offices does. And it's quick and it's easy. We actually, for our listings, put it up on the FMLS document, so anybody making an offer would have it and they can pull it down and do it, okay? Most of the time we have it up there. So that's I think just best practice, right? You can do it, this business, if you talk to 20 agents, top agents in each of your offices, they may do it 15 different ways. I look at what everybody's done and I pick a best practice as a foundational practice that I teach. So to me, the best practice to teach is let the attorney choose it. Your liability is kind of removed.
Okay.
Get it quick. It doesn't cost you anything. And therefore, there you go. Make sense?
Thank you.
All right, there's another question here. I think Ms. Byers. Ms. Byers, if a buyer likes 2 homes, can they put in an offer on 2 homes at the same time? That way, if their first choice doesn't get accepted, they already have their second choice already submitted. Okay. How do I answer this? Can they? Yes. Is it ethically okay? It's a little borderline depending on who you ask. Because you have a due diligence period, people have done it. If they ask you, do you have an offer on another house? Should you answer yes? Say yes, because you shouldn't lie, because you could jeopardize your license. Can you do it? Because 15 years ago, the offer form said on the bottom, do you have any other property under contract? Or are you under contract with any other property? Now it doesn't say that. So could you do 2? Yes, you could. But if you get past that due diligence, you get past contingencies, you have to be careful because they're going to expect you to buy both houses. All right. And if you terminate one past contingencies, you're going to lose your earnest money. So I would be careful doing it. If in our community you do it a lot and they see you do it, we're going to be less likely to accept your offers on properties, knowing that you might do that with our property that we have for sale. So in this business, you can get a reputation. Can you do it? Yes. Would you do it? I would be careful doing it. And I probably would, maybe one time, knowing never do it again. Okay. Because if that happened to me and I'm a listing agent and I'm going down the hall and I'm passing the top teams on the way to my office, I'm going to say, guess what happened to me today? Guess what Mr. Smith did to me today as a buyer's agent? Does that make sense? I don't know if Ms. Byers is still there. So I would be careful with it. I would just be ready to go. I mean, you just don't know. I would just be ready to go so you can punch a button for the offer. Doing it at the same time is a little scary because they both could accept. And then you got to pick one. And sometimes karma is a bitch. Excuse me. Let's see. What else? I think, can you back to the previous page when I answer questions? I missed a lot of notes. Okay, this is being taped. And then I think Kristen can send you this file to anybody who emails her, okay? All right, so we're at 2:30. Do you guys want to take a break? All right, is it okay if I stay on? I like to answer questions and I usually stay 15 minutes past 4 o'clock. So am I allowed to just answer questions? If anybody just has any questions like, what's my favorite music group of the 70s? I say Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'll answer any question. Who's my favorite baseball team or whatever. But is that okay to stay live for 15 minutes? And then Kristen, are you there?
Yep.
Give me about a 2-minute warning in 2:45 and we'll start class again. That okay with everyone?
Yep. Nobody leave yet. I've got to get
Oh, sorry.
roll call again.
And when she says it's okay, I'm just going to leave my mic on. If you've got questions, ask me questions. I'm here to help you guys. We're in the same Keller Williams family, the Ross Group, and use me because you don't get a lot of opportunities to talk to people that have made a lot of mistakes like I have and learn from them, right?
Kristen, can we get your email address for the notes?
To send you these notes, yeah.
Is that okay? Because I'm just scribbling all over everything and it's not looking like his. I mean, I know it's,
And
you
mine
have
is,
it, it's just, yeah, but
Rachel, mine is too, so.
yours looks better than mine.
Okay.
You should see mine. It's not good.
Christian, when you send, and when Christian sends that out to you guys, Christian, please include my cell phone number so they can text.
Okay.
Don't email me, okay? Because I won't see it. I get so much, it gets in spam. And I will give anybody 5 minutes, okay? And if I have to call you back, I will. But I believe many people in my life have given me 5 minutes. And if you have a question you can't get answered, have a broker question, I don't want to interfere with that, but if you can't get anyone on the phone, I'll be glad to help in the best way that I can, okay? All right.
Cool.
All right,
Everybody.
you guys can take your 15 minutes.
All right, so anybody have any questions? We can all sit and stare at each
I have a question.
I have
Doug.
a question.
other. All right, I heard Ms. Thurman first, I'm sorry, and then we'll go to the next. Okay.
I have a question. Okay, so last night I made an offer on a property for my buyers. We made a full price. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, congratulations.
Thank you. So we made an offer, a full price offer on a property after doing the CMA, and I could see that the property was nicely priced.
Okay.
All right, so we made an offer. The only thing I pretty much requested was that, for the seller to contribute to the closing costs. All right, so I'm thinking, so the offer was not accepted, even though we made a full price offer.
Was it countered?
Was
it countered?
It was not countered.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I reached out to the listing agent to find out, why wasn't it, at least countered. And she said that the seller went with the offer that netted them more.
Okay.
So I'm guessing it's because we asked for the closing cost, which
Okay.
maybe another offer came in, maybe it was full price, maybe it was overpriced, and they didn't ask for closing costs.
Sure.
I feel like we made a pretty solid, offer other than, and I asked for less than 3% of closing costs.
Okay.
And well, the other thing that we included in the special stipulations was maybe the inspection. So do you think that, maybe next time exclude, requesting the seller pay for anything or any seller concessions?
Did you know you were in a multiple offer situation?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you explain to the buyer that you're in a multiple offer situation?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's just a matter, when I'm in a multiple offer situation, I ask my client, I think you probably did this, that's all very solid, right? And sometimes you will win an offer that way. So you just don't know.
Right.
Your offer could have been 5% under list price.
Right.
So I always ask my buyers, this house, okay? I gotta have it. Then you look at things like option money, acceleration clause, and also for these you don't know what it is. Option money, acceleration clause, and going above list with no closing costs. So, do you know what option money is?
I kind of know. Can you explain?
You want me to give you a kind of explanation? So, we'll get it in a second. Option money means it's kind of like if you were going to put in let's do a round number because I can use the number, okay?
Okay.
10,000 earnest money. I know that sounds high. We're just going to use it as for an example. If you're going to put in 10,000 earnest money, you can also do option money. So how that works is in lieu of doing just straight up earnest money, you tell to the seller is like, I really like your house. I like your house so much that I'm willing to give you $5,000 in option money, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And $5,000 in earnest money instead of the normal 10,000 earnest money. And the way it would work is if I don't go through with the purchase of the house, you get to keep the 5,000 in option money.
Okay.
For pretty much any reason, unless the seller defaults. If the seller defaults, you have to get your money back.
Gotcha.
If you go through with the purchase of the house, that 5,000 in option money is part of your purchase price.
Okay.
Right? So they don't lose it. So if the house looks good, everything you think is going to work out, then the option money, because that grabs the seller's attention and you go to the front of the line. And usually the amount you're okay risking. Now 5,000 may be too much. So if it was a $200,000 house, you might say, I'll give you $1,000 option money and $1,000 earnest money, or a total of 2,000 instead of 2,000 in earnest. And then the listing agent will explain to the seller, hey, if they don't close for any reason, You know, if we don't default and we do everything we say we do, and they don't close for any reason, you get to keep the $1,000. Now, if they do close, we got to apply for their purchase. You still get to keep it, but it's going to count toward them buying the house, right? So
Okay.
on a $200,000 house with $2,000 earnest money, you would have to do $198,000, right? If you purchase, you still owe that because that'd be like earnest money. And if you had a down payment, you would add your down payment, and the earnest money counts as part of your down payment. Is what I'm trying to say. So does the option money if you close. Was that clear?
Yes.
Now, the other way was the acceleration clause. You've heard of an acceleration clause before.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so do I need to explain that? I'll explain. Let me do a one sentence for everybody else that may not know.
Yes.
All right. So an acceleration clause is when you say, and I'm paraphrasing it, there's a whole step that is written by GAR in the GAR steps that you can cut and paste it. So you don't write this down. It's in the steps. We're going to go over steps in a little bit. So the acceleration clause says, I will make an offer of $200,000. You get a bona fide offer. I'm paraphrasing it. For any amount over that, I'm willing to increase my offer, my buyer offer, another $2,000 above your highest offer. Okay? So if you put into 200,000, somebody else puts in 205, and they send you the 205 and say, look, here's an actual offer for 205, and you're saying you will pay 207.
Okay. Is it the acceleration or the escalation clause?
It's called an escalation clause.
Escalation. Okay.
Yeah. Acceleration clause is when a mortgage company accelerates you paying them back. If that makes sense. And escalation is when you escalate your offer more than someone else's offer. And they have to show you the offer. You should write in there. Now you can write anything that you want to see the offer. And you also make it net to seller. So if an offer is $205,000 and they're paying $10,000 in closing costs, that offer is really $195, right? So you only have to pay $195 plus 2 for $197. Got it? So it's based on what the seller is receiving minus closing costs he's paying to the buyer. So that helps because it should put you above anybody else. Now, sometimes agents may go, listing agents may go, I don't want to do that. Okay? I just take the best, maybe the best qualified offer. Maybe they felt someone was putting more money down. Okay?
Right.
So that's that part. Now, what the third part was, let's see, what was the third thing I said? Okay, we did escalation clause, we did option money, and the third thing is you might offer above list cost, right? So list price. So I think that's very important to understand.
Right.
If you're in a multiple offer situation, there's more likely someone will offer more, so you might want to consider offer more. And if a property is strong and it looks like it's going to appraise, in a lot of offer situations, I don't do closing costs with the initial offer because some sellers have a preconceived notion of, I'm not going to pay closing costs. I'm not going to pay closing costs, right? But if they have a house sell for $300,000 and they want $300,000, that's all they want, and you offer them $305 with $5,000 in closing, it's the same thing, right? So what I like to do is negotiate 300 and then go back and say, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, you know, this is a young couple. They're trying to save as much money as possible. Would you take the sales price up to 305 and pay the 5,000 in closing costs? So I kind of negotiated after the first, right? Or I get them down to 295 and then I take it back up to 300 and they get the 5,000 in closing costs. 90% of the time, sellers are okay with that. Listing agents are okay with that. Does that make sense, Ms. Thurman?
Yes, it does. So you can actually complete the purchase and sales agreement, send it over minus any request for the closing costs, then come back later and say, you know, would you be willing to?
In a lot of cases. Now remember, this industry, there is no guarantees. I've seen everything. I've seen things that I know that somebody should accept, they never do. I've seen something like I threw in a 250 on a 300 buyer wants me to, and they accepted it, right? So you never know in this. I always go by probabilities. Most of the things I have a 75, 80, 85, 90% chance of happening. And that's how I base my decisions. And I preference my clients, the very first conversation where it's a buyer or seller, there are no guarantees in this industry. I'm going to going to do my very best for you. I'm going to give you all the information in the world so you can make the very best decisions. We can't control people, right? We can't control somebody emotional that does something that we say, wow, that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, plenty of history in our country, people have been doing things that doesn't make sense, right?
On the offer last night, we was expecting to at least get countered. You know, at least we were expecting the counter offer to come through.
Exactly. And here's another thing I will tell you too. When you put in an offer and you give too long of a time, or if it's one that's kind of low and they're shopping it, they don't have to counter you. They can not even counter you and take someone else's offer. Okay. So just be wary of that to explain. I think the biggest success point, if people ask me, Doug, why are you so successful in this industry? How did you survive? Because I'll be honest, all right? I'm going to tell you the truth. I've seen the numbers. For every 10 people that get licensed, all right, 10 years, only one is still there. Working at a high level, not doing 3 or 4 transactions, but working at a high level. And I think one reason that I'm still here is because of communication, honesty, integrity, knowing my industry, and just explaining things to my client, not making decisions to my client. Because if you do that, you succeed at a much higher level, right? People respect you. They want to work with you. People refer you. If I can tell any new agents that, that's the foundational secret, is know your business. Understand these things that we're going over and talk to your clients and explain things to them. This is what happens. Let them make the decisions, and I think it usually goes well. All right, so thank you. That was a pretty long answer on your scenario, but let's see if somebody else, we got time for a couple more questions. All right, who's next?
Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
I had a question.
All right. Yes.
I guess it might be a general question. So when recommending a lender to a prospective buyer client,
Yes.
so in my office at Peachtree Road, we have Supreme Lending.
Yay!
So I have personally worked with Supreme Lending, but I worked with Scott Mackey. I think he's in Alpharetta. Is
Okay.
that a conflict? Can I refer to Scott Mackey because that's who I'm familiar with? Or how do I get to know the people in our office so that I can refer them? Or how does that work exactly?
What I usually do, and I always give 3. Always give 3 or more. Okay. And if you have a favorite and you know they're tried, true, and tested, I still think they should make a decision, because you can get yourself in trouble because everybody has a bad day, right? I'm Peachtree Road, as you know, Ms. Gillis. So I do the same thing. I have a great relationship with Kim Neely. She's been in the business senior 20 years. And I tell them, I said, here's our alliance partner. My wife is on the ALC, vetted this company, and they interviewed a lot of companies. And I kind of tell their story, take a second. And then I say, here's another option and another option, and you go decide. So I always think your alliance partner, because they've been vetted, should be one of your 3 choices, you know? And the other 2, you develop relationships and people that you want to be in business with. And if you have a problem with the alliance partner, then do 3 different ones. But I always like to do 3. And I always like, if it's alliance partner that I know that does a really great job, I say that first. Now, here's our alliance partner. They've been vetted by our company. We have over 400 agents in our office. This is who they're, in a lot of cases, are their go-to. And that's important, because if they're not, they're re-interviewed for the process. they will be gone. And that should mean something to your client, that we're vetting them and making sure they're doing a great job.
Okay, so our alliance partner is the alliance partner Supreme Lending, or is the Supreme Lending in our office is the partner?
Supreme Lending is in our office because they are an alliance partner.
Okay, okay, perfect.
All right, I think we're getting back to our thing. So let's keep the questions coming. Let's get turned in here, because this next hour and 15 minutes is going to be fast and furious and very good stuff. So Kristen, are we back?
Yeah, I'm waiting. If everybody could turn back on your cameras, please, so that I can get, I'm giving them a couple minutes to get that, or a couple seconds to get that.
Can I tell a funny story? I think the conference room's dripping right now. So I might need a bucket, Kristen, in a second.
You're on your own. Just
okay. I don't know if you can.
It sounds like it's going to come through the roof, basically.
I hear, if y'all, I don't know if you can hear this drip, 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 drip. I'm just gonna walk around on the other side of the conference room and check real quick. All right, I'm not seeing any water, but I'll check it a little closer. So, all right, I'm back. Okay. Oh, do we have everybody in, Kristen, yet?
I think so. Yep. I think we're good.
Okay, so before we go through an actual offer, they have the buyer offer objections. You guys can read this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble. We can practice this, but I'd rather have more time to explain how to fill this out and how to strategize on this. Is that okay with everybody? I know you guys are going to turn in reviews, and there's always going to be 1 out of 50 people that says, you know, Doug didn't go over these scripts, and give me 1 star. That's okay, but I want to make sure if you really want us to do this, I did make some notes, so let's at least go over the notes. Is that okay with everybody? Can you read this later? Can you guys read these after hours or at home? Practice this with each other. So the first one says, when a buyer wants to sell or make repairs, this doesn't even apply, so I don't want to practice it, okay? We basically, our best practice is do it during the actual, after we do the inspection, okay? And after we're under contract, all right? So let's go to the next script. When the buyer wants to make a lowball offer. The script that you really want to say is, seller will not respond, and remember who you are if the price is reduced later. Okay, here's an important thing I didn't tell you. If you go around making lowball offers in a certain area, and a lot of listing agents talk to each other in a certain area, your name is on that contract. You're as a buyer's agent, and also your buyers are. So I had one that I had to release. We were in, everybody know where Horseshoe Bend is. It's a place in Roswell. I had some clients just about 8 years ago. We put 4 different lowball offers in Horseshoe Bend. We didn't get to do a 5th one because I got a call from, and there were 4 different listing agents, but they all talked. And one of them called me and said, Doug, we're not going to take your clients seriously. You're wasting our time. You're going through, you're getting all the documentation. I said, look, fair enough. Call up my clients and said, it sounds like you're not ready. And basically, I think it took them 3 years. I released them. 3 years later, they finally went under contract and wasn't in Horseshoe Bend because nobody wanted to sell to them. So be careful. You know, legally, I mean, I've just said some borderline stuff as a broker, but listing agents are going to tell sellers this offer is not serious because they keep putting in offers in other houses in the community. Does that make sense? Okay. And then remember, it's a shopping technique. Agents will take your lowball offer and try to get another offer. So they will call everybody who's seen the house. All right, let's go up to the next page, Kristen. All right, present the offer to the listing agent. So the first one, call the listing agent meeting and let them know an offer is coming. And then I put a note here, seller can sign another offer at any time. So I always try to try to get an offer together as soon as we know it, as soon as possible. I would be careful. I can't tell you a number of times, even this year, that we've had a couple buyers in situations that lost out because they didn't get their offer in on time. Is sitting on the husband's DocuSign, waiting for him to sign at 8 a.m. and he doesn't get it back to me till 4 p.m. and I get it over at 4:05 and he goes, oh, we just took a full list price offer at 3 o'clock. So sorry, Doug. And it's usually an agent I don't know, or so I would basically let them know you have an offer coming and tell them you're working as fast as you can and just say, and make sure that you get it in as quickly as possible. Now, it says use e-edge, invite the listing agent, buying loops and all that. I would be cautious. I always try to do PDFs on offers to the listing agent when I present it because they don't all use the same system. If I'm working with a Sotheby's agent or if I'm working with an independent agent, use an e-sign with FMLS. You know, we assume that we want to force our system on people. I think some listing agents don't look at your offer if it's coming from some they're not used to. So I always ask, is it okay to send it in a PDF? And they always like that because it's just very standard. A lot of older agents that have been in the business a long time, that's what everybody used to do. So I just want to make sure, I would